All right, so my name is Kareem. I'm a solutions engineer at Lucid, formerly Instabug, and today's presentation is titled The Last Inch Problem. We called it that way because it highlights kind of the gap that is being missed by the traditional observability tools right now, and how this gap in monitoring and visibility is very detrimental to your app and the experience of your users when using your app. So I'll give you a quick example, just give you a taste of the impact that this last inch gap has. Let's take a simple example of like an e-commerce app, and you're going through the app and you're trying to purchase something, and you're clicking on the buy now button, and it's broken, it's not working. But here's the kick. It's not like there's a crash when you click on the buy now button, which if it was a crash, your traditional observability tools would be able to capture that. And even your app store and play stores will be able to capture that. But it's actually something more specific, something more mobile specific or client facing specific, like maybe an issue with the rendering of the screen, or maybe it's an issue with the app running out of memory, for example. So something very mobile specific. And so in this case, there will be no alerts fired indicating that there is an issue. And then secondly, in a lot of cases, not a lot of customers will reach out that there is an issue, and because like customers' tolerance now is very minimal, and we will discover this more throughout the presentation, is that a customer would rather just dump the app and go to a competitor app rather than go through the effort of reporting that there is an issue and reaching out and waiting for the fix to happen. So ultimately, what ends up happening is you spend days, if not weeks, until you figure out that there is an issue. Typically, what happens, like an example we saw, is like the product people are going through the store reviews, for example, and then they're looking at the reviews, and then they see a buy now button is not working. And then they scroll a little bit further, they see another review that says the same thing, and they kind of connect the dots of like both those reviews are coming on the same day on the same app version, and then put two and two together and kind of draw the conclusion that there is an issue. But again, like coincidentally, when they find this out, it's been days, if not weeks, and that's like putting you at a big disadvantage. Um, so why is this happening? Why is this last gap causing a lot of issues? Is again, like when we talk about like traditional observability tools, they're relying on like irrelevant data for mobile monitoring. So they're relying on the API responses and the endpoint health. They're more on the server side part, and on the backend side of like server side logs that aren't really relevant to the mobile experience, or aggregated backend latencies, or even in the cases of crashes, they're sending the stack traces. And as a developer, you would know stack traces are good until they're not, until you're not unable to reproduce the issue, reproduce the crash, then they are no longer relevant. So things that don't cater to what an app developer is looking for when detecting issues and getting reports, versus a tool that covers that last inch. It pretty much covers everything related to the client-side experience. So client-side telemetry, example, like a client-side network failures, or like the context of what the user was seeing prior to a crash or prior to an issue, or mobile-specific stuff that an app developer would want. Like, for example, what was the device state when the issue happened? What was the app state? In which lifecycle was the app in when the issue surfaced? And to kind of summarize, like a one hat fits all is like any frustration signals that may come up and frustrate your user within the handheld device, within the app experience when they're using their mobile devices, which has its own specific frustration signals that need to be catered for. Um, so to go along further and discussing the impact of missing that last inch, there's a lot of statistics that kind of highlight the severity, two of which kind of like stood out to me. And the first one being that 71% of uninstalls are caused by issues that go undetected. And this kind of makes sense because think about it. If I'm using your app and like we saw, the buy now button is not working, and then I give you the benefit of the doubt, which really doesn't happen. It's not realistic, but I go to the store and see that there is an update. So I update the app and then try it again, and then the issue persists. And then maybe I come back to the app within 2 days, and the issue is still there. To me, that tells me that the app providers, it gives me the impression that the app providers do not really care about the app or the quality of the app. And so why should I reciprocate care and reciprocate loyalty to your brand? So I just dump the app and go to another app. While in reality, it's not about the app providers not caring. They actually put a lot of effort into making the app for sure. It's just that they don't have the correct supporting cast. They don't have the correct observability tool that detects if any issue is happening and alerts them on it. And going to the second statistic, this is why, on average, app teams spend 18 to 26 days of getting detection lag of issues that are actually happening, because again, there is an inadequacy with their current traditional observability tools. So going along further and doing kind of the separation between the two types of tools, the old tools, the traditional tools versus like a mobile specific, like a Lucid. The old tools, again, just reiterating, like we have the stack traces and the crashes, very stale, very static, server-side driven data, reactive feedback, which they might not be actionable. And even if they are actionable, that's the point, they're reactive. They're not even proactive. So that issue has likely already spread. And also we see with a lot of customers, they rely on analytics tools, which are very helpful, but not when you use them solely or alone, because analytics tools and funnels and drop-offs are very important, because they highlight where users are dropping off, which is an important detection element. However, they don't quite tell you why the users are dropping off, because they're on the surface level. They don't dig into what's happening under the hood to tell you why the issue is happening and how to fix it. So it is very helpful because it tells you that there is an issue, but not to rely on it individually or on its own when monitoring something sophisticated and complicated as a mobile app. So again, versus a tool like Lucid, mobile driven, so pre-crash timeline, pre-issue timeline, so the sequence of events and steps that the user went through prior to the issue, which would allow you to just recreate the session prior to an issue, and there you have it. You have the reproduction steps right there in front of you, and you don't have to do any guesswork, any blind work at all. Lucid does that for you, or a mobile-driven specific tool does that for you. And speaking of being mobile specific, like we said, device state context, app state context, and even like things that kind of guide you into where the issue is. Is it related or specific or local to a specific release, or is it more global, or is it affecting just this platform or affecting just this OS or just on this device or when they go to the screen? So again, just giving you mobile specific, it's giving you the mobile speak, let's say, if we're going to say it in a layman term, which is what the app developers want when they're debugging an issue. So given four examples of things that tend to be missed by traditional observability tools, and I'm not saying that all those four always are missed. It's just like either one, two, three, or all of them. And there's definitely more of those things. But four things that are of great importance and are missed by a lot of tools is the first one is rage stabs, and like something like a backend tool, they're not on the listen out for rage stabs. It's irrelevant to them, and this is something very important. If it's missed, it leads to very much a lot of uninstalls that happen and customer abandonments as soon as those rage stabs happen. So if your tool is not on the listen out for something as frustrating as rage stabs, you need to question the tool that you're using. And the second example is a tool that's not detecting or alerting you of a dead-end flow or a broken journey within the app. So let me give you an example. One of our customers, a current customer, they came to us before they became our customer, and they were a money transfer app. And they came to us, and for you to use their app and transfer money, you need to be logged in or you need to sign up if you're a new user. So they had, for 3 weeks, the sign up page had an issue and people weren't able to sign up, and their tools didn't detect that there was an issue, and they spent 3 weeks till they discovered it. So imagine, first of all, the reputation on the app and the business. And secondly, for 3 weeks, the amount of transactions lost for people trying to sign in and do a transaction and unable to do it. And no one's there to help them. No one is noticing them because, again, the tool is not helping them identify that there is an issue. So it's something very important. And again, your tool is missing something as important as an app functionality. You need to question the tool. Then the two last examples, they kind of paint a different picture. They paint a picture of where the expectations are for us as consumers of apps. So let me give you this statistic. So a 2-second delay, just a 2-second delay during a transaction drives abandonment rates up to 87%. And similarly, 45% of users are less likely to purchase if a critical flow loads slowly. So they're going to abandon the purchase completely. They're going to abandon everything that they want to do, anything they wanted to buy, and everything, like they went in to grab some food or whatever the case is. They're going to abandon it completely just because it's slow. And that's the key point. It's just because it's slow. It didn't even say, those two statistics didn't even say that the app crashed while you're doing the transaction or while you're checking out. It's just because of 2-second delay. That's how critical a 2 second is, and that highlights again the expectation and how we are accustomed now to the high sensitivity and a fast and snappy and smooth experience. That a 2 second delay would be as bad as a crash, if not more. So it kind of tells you that the traditional tools that are just looking at crash reporting, they're really out of date to what the customers are expecting now, and you need to be able to fill in the gap with a more sophisticated tool, let's say. So how to change all of this? Unfortunately, it's not like a one solution fixes all. It's more of like an education into how people are evolving from one tool to the next and how they evolve with the tool that they use. And put effort into the tool that they purchase and the tool that they acquire to help them with the observability. So we kind of dissected things into 5 segments that highlight this evolution of the observability tool and its sophistication, let's say, and visibility. So the first step or the first category is blind. And blind is people that are relying on crash reporting only. And as you would guess, like the detection lag is 18 plus days, because as we saw in the previous slides, it's not just about crashes. That's not the measuring stick of how good the app is. Right now, codes are written in ways where crashes are not bound to happen because you can control it in a sense. And the expectation now is not just about the crashes for customers, it's about the smoothness. So the amount of telemetry and the amount of metrics and the amount of slowness that goes undetected from just relying on crash reporting, it puts you in the blind category. And then the next step is being reactive. Being reactive is you evolve from just crash reporting, and then you start to gather a couple of different performance telemetry, like maybe capturing some telemetry from your backend tool, like the API responses and maybe an app launch here and there, which is better than being blind, but still it's very limited, far from being great, because you're missing out on a lot of app telemetry and a lot of performance specific metrics that are concerned with the app experience itself. So it cuts down the detection lag, but still in days, especially in terms of the metrics that are uncovered by those traditional tools. And then you evolve into the third category. The third category being observable. And being observable, you just have full client-side telemetry, full performance metrics, full telemetry of all any kind of frustrating signal that may occur to a user when they're using the app. So nothing goes unnoticed, and you have full visibility. And that cuts down the detection lag, obviously, to hours, if not even an hour or less. If you have like an intelligent alerting system that just listens to the data that is being collected and then alerts you whenever there's like an exceeding in a threshold or violating of your thresholds, for example. But this is half the story, actually. So this is good, but it can still get better, because with being observable, this is half the story, because we had a detection lag and we cut it down to its bare minimum. But that's not the end of the story, because the other side is once you detect an issue, it's not going to fix itself, and you still need to resolve it. And there is a lag with resolution as well, as you would know, because resolution is not just about the fix. It's about understanding the issue, understanding where it's happening, where it's stemming from, reproducing it locally, and then starting with the fix. So there is a bit of gap that you can still reduce with the resolution lag. And this is what tools like Lucid, for example, aim to do, with not just relying on being observable, but then feeding this into like an intelligent system that helps you with the work after detecting the issue. So it does things like make sense of the entire list of data instead of you doing it manually, and kind of organizing your action items and telling you like this issue number 2 needs to be looked at instantly because it has the highest business impact. So it kind of organizes your next steps, and also like it does some smart triaging, so it's able to identify where this issue is stemming from. Does it belong to this team? Is it happening just on this release? To kind of focus your work to again limit the lag in the resolution to just the fix, if there is an intelligent system that points you into how you can solve the issue or why the issue is happening in the first place. And so being intelligent and being observable, I like in realistically is as good as it gets, but there's definitely better, because what we do at Lucid is that we feed all of those things, the observability and the telemetry and the intelligent insights, into a whole infrastructure of AI models and AI agents that speed up this entire process from detection all the way to resolution and fixes. So think about this. If you're fully observable and you have all the metrics and you're able to detect all of them, You add to this an AI model that does extra detection in case there's something that is missed by those full client-side telemetry, like just monitoring all the sessions that are happening, identifying any patterns, identifying anything broken within like screen transitions or with rendering of screens. So just doing full-on detection and making sure everything is good. Then once it detects, it does the triage for you. Intelligently, it just does the triage. It's able to map and draw some patterns. It's able to group things together. It's able to organize and prioritize what needs to be solved, what belongs to who, and so on and so forth. And then the next step, it's able to resolve, because if you give it access to your code base, this AI agent has all the data, all the telemetry, all the session-driven context, mobile-driven context, and it has your code. And if it matches them together, it's able to identify why this issue is happening, where is it happening in the code, and then come up with a fix, come up with a PR that you can push, and then you can resolve the issue. And finally, and ultimately, if you have this integrated into your CI/CD pipeline, then you can also go ahead and do the release as well. So currently what we do with customers, and this fifth category is a bit futuristic, and this is our vision. And the reason I say it's futuristic, because if you give it full autonomy, so if it's autonomous and all the agents are just doing the work, it's going to be like a closed loop of self-healing. Like as soon as something is detected, it gets triaged by the agent, it gets resolved, and it gets released almost on the spot, cutting down the detection lag to none. So this is something futuristic, but what we're doing at Lucid is a combination of the intelligent and the agentic, in a sense that you can co-pilot things with those AI agents so that they can speed up the entire process, and it will be like an effort that is shared between the developers and the AI agents, and guiding you in the detection, in the triage, and the resolving, and the releasing as well. Just again, cutting down the detection and the resolution lag as much as possible, as much as realistic, really. So, unfortunately, talking about those categories, doing our research, we found that a whole 84% of all app teams, in terms of their observability stack, they're actually in the blind category. And so hence they're way behind, and they're way disadvantaged, and they're having detection lags of 18 plus days or more. And only 16% are a bit evolved in their choices and their observability tools, where they're a bit reactive, where they have a bit more telemetry, but it's still, the detection lag is still in days. So that's pretty disadvantageous for them. And it's not like, when I said this is about being educated on the choice of the observability tool, it's not really a direct education to like the developers or the product people, because if it was up to them, they will absolutely choose the agentic route. They will choose a route that not just does all the work for them, but a tool that is adequate enough to give them all the session information and all the relevant information that they need to fix the issues, and a tool that is adequate, that it can detect any kind of frustrating signal that is happening, so they're not so they have full visibility. However, when it comes down to the choices, it's really for the higher ups and the people in charge, and they sometimes think that going to like a free crash reporting tool is like something advantageous, where they're saving down on costs. But when you think about it, there's actually $1 million+ that is consumed from the engineering output, from the inadequate tools that don't provide enough issues, that leave you with a lot of manual reproduction steps and a lot of blind work, and you spend a lot of time and spend a lot of effort. So if you're cutting costs in the choice of tool and think you're doing the right job, you're actually going to pay that and more on the back end from the effort that you're putting into resolving those issues from inadequate data from tools. And that's just the engineering effort. We're not even talking about like the issues or loss in revenue that may come from issues that go undetected, and the loss in reputation as well, which is very, very costly. And speaking of which, we do have an example from one of our customers, Dabble from Australia. So before they were our customers, their setup was they were in the blind category, where they were just getting 5 to 10% of user session telemetry. So they weren't getting the full picture, and that made their mean time to resolution in days. Like they would spend, and that's their word, or their code, that they would spend 20+ hours per week just reproducing issues, because they're not getting enough context. And the mean time to detection is also in days, because their telemetry is limited. And the consequence of that is a single hour of instability caused them $1 million+ in lost transactions. Versus now with Lucid, They have 100% session coverage. They're getting every crash, every transaction, every frustrating signal that might happen to the app users. They're getting it on the spot. And the issues are detected and patched in under 30 minutes. And this is their experience now with Lucid, because with a tool like Lucid that detects this on the listen for anything that might be frustrating to the user, that already puts you at an advantage that you have everything live as soon as it happens before it spreads. But also, it just doesn't give you the data and sits on it and sits away. It actually guides you into why this issue is happening and how to solve it. And it can go the extra step and even solve it on its own. So that's why the detection and patching is under 30 minutes. So compared to what they were having previously, that's a whole different level of like a playing field in terms of like the efficiency in their observability and patching and fixing. And this is their code. Like right now with Lucid, we have a real-time safety net. We're detecting and patching, like I said, in under 30 minutes before their users report it, which makes sense, and before their backend systems even reported as well. So again, putting them at that advantage and just saving them a lot of effort and a lot of cost and saving the brand reputation for sure as well. So to cap this off, I'm going to leave you with two statistics. The first one is that almost 60% of e-commerce revenue comes from mobile. So in other words, mobile is your outlet to the world. Like I might not know, like I might not go, like you're a brand, I might not go to your headquarters, your offices, to your shops if you have one, to your websites. I'm going to use my mobile app because that's the easiest way I can get in touch. So that's usually the outlet that most people tend to use, which would make sense why 74% of consumers are more loyal to brands with seamless app experiences. So that tells you, first of all, it tells you how high the expectation is for customers and how important the mobile app is. And secondly, the point here is that it says apps that have a seamless experience. It didn't say an app that doesn't crash. And then going back to the discussion of like having a crash-free session that is high, that's not the measuring stick right now. The measuring stick is how snappy and smooth the app is. And for it to be that smooth, that snappy, so should be your observability tool. It should be on the listen of those things that really matter the most to the customers now and to the expectation that customers have. And that's the current last inch, or that's the current gap that we see now in the market between the standards that you set for your app versus the choice, the quality of observability tool that you have. It just doesn't work well together. So if I can leave you with this, just to take away everything that we just said, like the most important thing, your app is as good and as of a high standard as your observability tool, because you can do a lot of effort and you can put a lot of design and you can put a lot of intricate details into the design of the app and the functionality in the app, and it can be the best app there is. But if you don't have a supporting cast, a proper supporting cast, like an observability tool that's telling you what is happening and notifying you if there's any slight issue with the app, then all the effort that you did will be in the ground and you will not be able to use it. And it's because it's bound to fail. But it's fine to fail as long as you have an observability tool that notifies you of this failure and you fix it and you keep that standard that you set, that you put that initial effort into your app for your customers on the long run. So that's it. Hopefully you came up with something from this presentation. And yeah, thank you for your